Today's episode is called Workers' Compensation. Is your business covered? We will be discussing what workers' comp is and what is the purpose and who is it meant to protect.
Educate your money now.
Hello, and welcome to Educating Your Money podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Kirui-Case, owner of MattNik Bookkeeping Services. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Today's episode is called Workers' Compensation. Is your business covered? We will be discussing what workers' comp is and what is the purpose and who is it meant to protect. We would like to thank Out and About Business Solutions for sponsoring our podcast. Today's guest is Karissa Kobylecky, Crestline insurance agent. Karissa has been in the insurance industry for 8 years. She has a vast knowledge in personal lines of insurance, but has recently transitioned into commercial insurance the last few years. Karissa prides herself on educating small businesses on what their insurance needs are and what she can do to help them. Hello, Karissa, and thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Definitely.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so with workers' comp is like one of those insurances that I think business owners look at as being kind of the necessary evil, right? Because
yes,
not having it can cost your business. And I think business owners also think of it as almost a rite of passage. Because if you need workers' comp, then your business has probably elevated to a new level, which comes with new responsibilities, and workers' comp being one of those responsibilities.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Karissa, what is workers' compensation?
Good question. So workers' comp is pretty much just coverage that the employee needs in case they were injured on the job. And so a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, I have general liability that covers bodily injury, things of that sort. Correct, but that's your liability. Workers' comp is for your employees. General liability is for the people that you come in contact with, or like your, if you go into someone's home, things of that sort, and you cause damage. So what you're liable for in that sense, but workers' comp is strictly for your employees. And it also protects your owner against any legal services should an employee sue them for being injured. So it covers, lost wages, pain and suffering if they were to become disabled. And again, it does cover all its, attorney fees, things of that sort, which can get pricey. So it's good to have workers' comp regardless because it protects both the employee and the employer.
Okay. And then are there different types of compensation insurance to choose from?
No. So workers' comp is pretty, cut and dry. So workers' comp insurance is going to be set limits. So the only differences are there's not different kinds to choose from. There's just different coverage options. So you can choose like the state minimum, which is like 100,000 across the board, all the way up to 2 million. And so there are just different price range as far as like how much coverage you have, but as far as what is actually covered, it's identical across the board. So no matter what company you shop with, no matter which carrier, the only difference is that you're going to choose is which coverage option you want, because it's all identical. It's all exactly the same across the board.
So the coverage, like you mentioned, you can choose from, for example, 100,000 to 2 million. Does that mean for every claim that it can insure, or does it mean like that's for the entire company?
It's per claim, per employee, per claim.
Okay.
Is what. So the way that they describe it's like per occurrence is how it's like. Yeah. So that's how much would cover. Like, so if you're looking worst case scenario, an employee were to pass away on the job. So that's, the worst case scenario, they were injured and they passed away. So it would pay up to the max, but if there was another workers' comp claim that followed a few months later, that would be a whole nother case. And so it would start all over. So if this person maxed out the benefits due to the death, of the employee, then, this person over here would still have access to their own benefits. So it is based on per employee claim.
And so for each claim, does the business owner have to put up, some money before the claim, kind of like with other insurances where you may have a deductible or something that needs to be paid before the insurance kicks in?
Some states do require deductible amounts, but in Nevada, I usually don't put any deductible amounts in there. I mean, there is options to include it, but I
Okay.
don't. Yeah. So but it just varies on the state. But here in Nevada, we pretty much, I know for myself, I can't speak for other agents. I don't usually choose a deductible. But most of the time, no, you don't need to have one.
So why is it, or why should a small business owner need workers' compensation insurance?
So, like I said, we'll just go with the big one is that it's required by law. So whether you have a W-2 employee, a 1099 employee, you are required to provide workers' compensation insurance for that employee. The only way out of that is if the person you are hiring already has workers' compensation insurance in place for themselves. So if they provide their own workers' comp, you will not need to include them on your insurance. Otherwise, yes, there's no gray areas. There's no, well, what if this, or what if they only work an hour, they only do part-time. It doesn't matter. They have to be listed on your workers' comp insurance. Otherwise, your business will be shut down. And they will do a seize work order on your business, and then you will have to wait until you get your workers' comp enforced. And then once it's enforced and the state can verify everything, then they will let you resume business. So it's always better just to have it, do it up front, do everything correctly, avoid any interruptions in your business, with the state. So short and sweet, it's required by law, and it protects you. Worst case scenario, you'd rather pay now, a little bit of now, than pay a lot later by not having it and somebody getting hurt. And then you're assuming the risk of that. You could lose your business. There's so many different things that could go into it. So why take that risk when you could pass that risk on to an insurance company who can, absolve that, high cost claim. So it's really just, it's good practice. It's good business practice to have it.
So does the size of a business matter with pricing?
Yes. So workers' comp premium is calculated based off of your annual payroll. So a person that has one employee, one full-time employee, will pay less than someone that has 5. And it also depends on what kind of work you're doing. Which I believe I was speaking with my networking group this morning about that is, the cost of insurance for someone who is like us, say works from home, doesn't leave the office much, our risk is a lot lower than say a general contractor who is working with tools, working with the equipment, going up high levels, so their price of workers' comp is going to be a lot more than someone like working from home. So cost of as far as, business premium, yes, it does matter on the size of your business because we're going to rate per employee and per their annual payroll. But the good thing is with Nevada is we do have a cap, which most states usually have a minimum payroll amount that you have to do, which Nevada has a cap. So the most payroll that an employer would be responsible for is $36,000 per employee. So if they pay over that amount, their only responsibility when it comes to premium amount is going to be $36,000. So that kind of plays into the favor if someone does have high cost, or they have electricians and plumbers and all these people that make $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year. You're only going to be responsible for $36,000 when it comes to rating and calculating your premium. So you do tend to save a little bit there when you do have a lot of employees and they're getting paid well.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
So who does a workers' compensation actually protect, the business owner or the employee?
It protects both. So it'll protect the employee, when it comes to losing wages, if they were to be on disability, it helps covers disability benefits, the time that they miss work. It definitely will help keep them afloat if something happens. And of course, it protects the employer, because the employer is not having to come out of pocket for those lost wages. They're not having to come out of pocket for the employee's disability benefits, or if the employee, decides to hire an attorney, to look further into it. And of course, those are going to have fees. Those are going to be more cost. So it will protect both of them in the long run. So it's good to have, just because it's good money up front. You're protecting yourself. It's a tax write-off. You can write it off in your taxes. But it's just good protection for everybody.
What happens when a business owner has a claim? What do they do? What's the process?
So what you would do is first contact your insurance agent. So myself, you would contact your insurance agent and let them know, hey, we need to file a claim. We'll get you in contact with the company that we placed your business with. Once we contact that insurance company, we can go ahead and start the claims process. You will get assigned an adjuster who will look over the case. They will reach out to the employee. They will reach out to the employer. They do their investigation, do their initial stuff to make sure that it's a valid claim, that there's no fraud going on. So everybody's protected in that sense. They do their due diligence. I always say, just if you do end up going to the hospital, if you have your employees going to the hospital or going to get checked out, keep all receipts, keep all documentation of everything that they do. If they're missing work, keep track of how many days they're missing work. All of that stuff is going to be really helpful when the adjuster comes in, as far as paying benefits and things of that sort, or compensation. All of that stuff will tie in. So document everything. If you have cameras in your business, that is fantastic, because then at least, if something's caught on camera, we can check to see who was negligent, if it was on, the employee.
You mentioned 1099s, and here in Nevada, I had always known that as a business owner, you should ensure that the 1099 carries their own workers' compensation insurance. And if they don't, then it was pretty much up to the business owner, and in the business owner's best interest, to carry workers' comp for those 1099 workers. Because obviously it could become very costly for a business owner if a 1099 who's not considered an employee were to get hurt, have an accident, or have something employee related happen to them. Then here in Nevada especially, they are very employee favorable, and it could be easy for a 1099 to prove that they're an actual employee or somehow working under your particular company. But recently, I just recently heard that apparently that may have changed in Nevada. And then obviously for those who live in other states, you may want to double check your state to find out what are the laws in regards overall for workers' compensation. But it sounds like that now Nevada's law is requiring that all employees and 1099s be insured under the business, or in some way have some workers' comp. They have to have some workers' comp. Now, I haven't had a chance to look into this, and I will, but have you heard of this, Karissa, and is it true?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And that was the law that went into effect back in July, when it was in regards to wages, or like increasing wages, stuff like that. They actually included something in the law where now it's not really tied to the insurance more so as it's tied to the 1099. So for myself, I am an insurance agent. So my 1099 is based off of commissions. So I get paid by the insurance companies that I represent for placing business with them, since I'm a broker. I'm the mediator. I find the client, put them in contact with the insurance company, and then I get paid a fee for doing that. So for me, I'm commission based. I'm 1099. I work from home. I'm an easy 1099 to write. But the way the law worked before was I am not required to be listed as a business. I do not have a business. My business is Crestline Insurance. That's the company that I represent. That's the company that I work under. But the way that they're structuring things now is that even though I represent Crestline Insurance and Crestline Insurance is a business, me, myself, I am not a W-2 employee. So which means that I don't pay taxes. Crestline doesn't pay taxes for me. But what's going to happen now is I actually have to get listed as a business with the state. So I have to have a state license. And what was going to happen now is 1099 employees are all required to be registered with the state as a business. And I can find more information on that law. I'm going to try to get a pamphlet that I can, send out. So if people do have questions, to reach out and I can get some actual documentation that really breaks down more of what actually changed. But the biggest takeaway from that was the business license. And so now if you were to get audited, and you did not have your business license, that's going to be a whole different fines, different ways that they're going to start structuring that. So definitely, reach out to your tax person, your bookkeeper, people that can have more information on that, your insurance agent. I mean, I'm just learning this stuff too. But as it pertains to workers' comp, even if the business license doesn't necessarily pertain with workers' comp, more so than the easiest way to describe this, guys, is you're a business owner. You hire help. That person is working for you. You can bring them on as a W-2 employee, full-time employee of your company. You can bring them on as an independent contractor working for your company. And so if they're coming in, they're working under your company, they're working for you, they need to be included in your workers' comp. And it's so easy to get them updated, to update your insurance agent. Your process is you hire your employee, add them to payroll, to your payroll company. Next up, call or email your insurance agent. Hey, we hired an employee. This is their annual salary. This is their part-time, full-time, whatever. We just hired someone to add them to our workers' comp. We go ahead and contact your insurance company and get it updated. Easy. But don't try to avoid the system because it's going to cost you fines. It's going to cost you so much down the road. And if something happens and that person is not covered, you're assuming that risk. And the insurance company is not going to cover you because you don't have the policies in force. So if your question is, well, what if this, unless they have their own? If they have their own workers' comp, nope, you're good. You're off the hook. If they do not have their own workers' comp, my answer is always going to be add them to your workers' comp.
They will tend to kind of leave it in their corner, they would say, it's really up to them to have the workers' comp. But it sounds like maybe with this new law that they're almost saying regardless, unless you have proof that they have their own, you have to have them covered. So what would this mean for small business owners that rely or use, 1099 workers?
It's just leaving themselves open to risk. If the state finds out, they will fine you and they will shut you down. And so that's the biggest thing is fines, and the fines vary. Sometimes if you have a 1-day lapse of workers' comp insurance, you're getting $1,000 fine. Workers' comp is not something that you want to put on the back burner or, underreport, because they audit. Every insurance company will audit you every single year. So in my opinion, I always say it's just better to be upfront. If you're going to hire someone, factor this into your hiring process. If you can't afford workers' comp, you can't afford to have a payroll. You can't afford to have, payroll. You can't afford to have an employee. It's all tied together and it's all a part of being a business owner, and so these costs all come with running a business.
So should all 1099 workers be covered, or just those industries that have a higher likelihood of getting hurt? Like, for example, for me, I have 1099 workers. They work from home. There's no need for them to leave or go anywhere in regards to my business. But for someone like that maybe construction or doing lawn care than maybe doing 1099s. Is there a difference between the two?
To easily answer that question, no. But the thing is too, so you brought up a really good point that I actually didn't even think about until now. So say if you do have employees and say they live in other states, every state has different laws. So even say if you have a sales team and your business is based here in Nevada, but say you have a person that works from home in Florida, in California, in Utah, every single state is different. And where that person is working is where you need to have that coverage. But to answer your question, no. I mean, when it comes to workers' comp, they don't discriminate on what type of work you're doing. That just affects how you're rated. But it doesn't necessarily take away that risk of, oh, okay, well, you're just working from home. If you're a 1099 employee, workers' comp is mandatory. The only time that they really are concerned about what you're doing is when it comes to actually rating you. Because even if you have someone who does multiple things, so say like I have a client of mine who does, she works for an apartment complex, and they do janitorial services, they do handyman services, they do patrolling, security. She provides everything. What they're going to do is if you have one employee that's doing all three of those things, they're going to find what's the highest risk, and that's how they're going to rate them.
I would like to thank Karissa for taking time out of her busy schedule and coming on the show and sharing her expertise. She gave us a lot of great information. Be sure to post any questions or comments below. Let us know if there's a topic you'd like to have discussed on the show. Comment below or email educatingyourmoney@gmail.com. Karissa, if any of our followers have specific questions or wanted to discuss more with you, how can they reach you?
Definitely visit our website. We have a list, kind of a breakdown too of some coverages, what different things that we can offer you. But definitely reach out to our website. It's www.crestlineins.com. Or you can email me directly. We'll post my contact information so you can call me, email me, text me, WhatsApp me. Find me on, Snapchat. I respond any different ways. So however you like to contact me, reach out to me. I'd love to get some questions, get some follow-ups, or even do a free review for you of your insurances to make sure that you don't have any gaps. So I'm more than welcome if you want to send me a copy of what you have. I will gladly look through everything, make sure you're taken care of.
Great. Thanks so much for watching Educating Your Money podcast, where it's not just about making money, but about educating your money. See you next Monday for the next episode. Stay safe, everyone.